Today we're digging into something important in learning tech. We want to explore why standard online learning often leads to knowledge you forget pretty fast,
Right.
and contrast that with a specific deep learning platform designed really to guarantee mastery instead.
Exactly. The core issue with a lot of traditional systems is they kind of rely on what we might call basic learning.
Basic learning.
Yeah, it's often quick, get fast results, maybe pass an easy quiz,
Mhm.
but the knowledge itself, it's fragile. We sometimes call it inert.
Inert, meaning you can't really use it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If you can't apply it or even remember it 6 months down the line, well, was it worth the effort?
Good question.
So this platform tries to fix that structural failure. It's engineered for what we call durable mastery.
Okay, durable mastery. That sounds significant. You define it as hitting a pretty strict 90% score on a big unit exam.
Non-negotiable, yeah.
I mean, I like the clarity, but isn't 90% on a test still just a test score? How do you know that score means it'll last?
Because you can't get to that 90% just by cramming. It's only achievable through real deliberate practice across 100 different deep learning tasks for that concept.
100 tasks.
Per concept, yeah. So that 90% isn't just a score, it's a signal. It tells us the knowledge is deeply processed, truly embedded, built to last.
Right, so it signifies real understanding, not just recall for a test.
Exactly. True. Lasting understanding.
Okay, so where does the science behind this come from? What's the foundation?
It's really built on 3 pillars, a kind of triple threat architecture, you could say.
Okay.
First, there's decades of cognitive science. Nobel Prize-winning stuff, actually. Herbert Simon's work on how people gain expertise, backed on, I think it's 31 key studies.
Wow, okay, solid science base. What else?
Second, it draws heavily from Finnish pedagogy, the system that consistently tops the PISA rankings. Focuses on depth.
Right, the Finnish model.
And the third pillar.
That's adaptive AI, but it's layered on top of the science and the pedagogy. Got it. So let's unpack those 100 learning tasks you mentioned. The source material says they operationalize things like dual coding. What does that actually feel like for me as a learner?
So dual coding, it's about forcing your brain to use 2 channels at once. Say you're learning, I don't know, a complex algorithm concept, an abstract idea.
Okay.
The system might immediately make you find or even create a visual representation, like a flowchart or a diagram showing how it works.
So translating from words to pictures.
Exactly. That active translation makes the memory much more robust. It locks it down better.
Interesting. And what about another one mentioned, self-explanation?
That one forces you to articulate why. Why did you choose that answer? Why does this step follow that one?
So it stops you just passively accepting information.
Right. You have to actively fill in the gaps in your own understanding. Make sure you get the mechanism, not just the fact or the final answer.
That sounds, well, pretty demanding. Rigorous. Doesn't that lead to, cognitive overload or burnout?
It is rigorous, yes. And managing that effort is crucial. That's where personalization really comes into play.
How so?
Well, the system leverages something called the self-relevance effect. The AI is designed to actually weave your personal context into the learning scenarios.
My context, like my job.
Could be your role, maybe current challenges in your industry. Or if it's, say, a younger learner, maybe themes from their favorite book or video games, used appropriately, of course.
Why is making it personal so important?
Because our brains are fundamentally wired to pay more attention to and remember better things that relate directly to us. It boosts memory encoding almost instantly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And we also manage the load structurally by enforcing a hierarchical structure, making sure you build the big picture first, the mental schema, and crucially, by cutting out what psychologists call extraneous cognitive load.
Extraneous load, like wasted mental energy.
Exactly. Like the fear of being judged or worrying about your score being watched.
Ugh.
The system uses total privacy.
So psychological safety. Removing that fear frees up brain power.
Precisely. All that energy can then go into the actual learning. It's about focusing 100% on the productive struggle.
And this ties into motivation, right? How does the system keep people engaged through this demanding process?
Yes, it's grounded in self-determination theory, or SDT.
Yeah.
Intrinsic motivation. You need 3 psychological nutrients, essentially.
Okay, what are they?
First is competence. You feel effective. That comes from tackling challenging tasks and having that clear 90% mastery goal to aim for. You see yourself getting better.
Makes sense. What's second?
Autonomy. Having a sense of control. And this is where it differs from a lot of systems and where the Finnish influence is clear.
How so? I thought AI usually tries to pick the perfect next step for you.
Right, but this platform doesn't track your proficiency to auto-assign tasks. That's key. Within the current concept, you have those 100 tasks, ranging in difficulty.
And I choose which one to do next.
You choose. Always. If you only pick easy ones, fine. But eventually you'll likely hit a wall, probably on that mastery exam for this section.
Ah, so the exam acts as a sort of gentle accountability nudge.
Exactly. It redirects you, suggests maybe trying some harder tasks, but you still make the choice. Preserving that autonomy is paramount for sustained motivation. It avoids that feeling of being passively pushed around by an algorithm.
Interesting. And the third nutrient for motivation?
That's relatedness, but in this context, it's more about psychological safety, which we touched on. Feeling safe to make mistakes.
Because mistakes aren't failures, they're data points.
Precisely. And you get instant feedback on every single microtask, every interaction.
So you correct errors immediately.
Yes, it creates this really rapid learning loop. It stops you from practicing mistakes until they become, ingrained bad habits.
Okay, this is all building a picture of a very robust system.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a long-term payoff, the meta skill of accelerated mastery. That sounds big.
It is. This is where it gets really powerful, I think. All that intense effort you put into mastering the first subject on the platform, it forces those high-yield learning strategies, retrieval practice, self-explanation, dual coding, all of them. It forces them to become automatic.
Automatic? How?
They shift from being conscious, effortful things you have to remember to do into unconscious procedural skills, like riding a bike. They run in the background.
So, Benelli, you stop thinking about how to learn effectively.
Largely, yes. You internalize the process of deep learning. So for the next subject you tackle,
I can just focus all my mental energy directly on the new material itself.
exactly. You're applying close to 100% of your cognitive resources to the content, not the method. This structurally speeds up your time to mastery for everything else you learn afterward. For life, potentially.
Wow, that's a compounding advantage.
It really is. If your goal isn't just ticking boxes or knowing facts for a week, but building real, usable, resilient expertise, well, the technology you use has to automate these highest yield cognitive processes, the ones science tells us actually work for long-term learning.
It turns that initial hard work into fuel for faster learning later.
That's the idea, a compounding cognitive advantage.
So, wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for our listeners? This system isn't just another online course. It sounds like it's designed to fundamentally rewire how you learn.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so here's something to think about. What complex skill, what difficult subject would you finally decide to tackle if you knew, truly knew, that your ability to master it was actually guaranteed to be faster and more effective than the last thing you learned? What becomes possible then?